when you look on difficulties as precursors to success, things become much easier. This is because when you're very focused on finding a solution to bypass a difficulty, you are also loading all of the information needed to solve the problem into your subconscious, and it will then use that information in the background to help to get you where you want to be. By repeatedly asking yourself, how can I do this? How do I go about this? How do I make this work for me? You set up a program in the subconscious which will continually access current and past experience looking for solutions. And then when there's something suitable identified, the creative subconscious connects the two things together and sends a possible solution up into consciousness for you to examine. The invention of cat's eyes illustrates this nicely. I believe that in some parts of the world they're also called Bot's dots. By cat's eyes, I mean the reflective lights that are used to mark lanes on roads and highways. Well, when Percy Shaw invented these reflectors, it was because he'd been straining to follow the course of the road after some reflective tram lines were removed. After seeing the eyes of a cat reflected in his car headlights, his subconscious instantly connected things together for him. He recounted this story in various ways, but in each case, experience triggered a solution to a problem about which he'd been thinking extensively. Now, over the years, Percy Shaw actually recounted the story of this invention in different ways, but it always had the same elements. And the reason for that, of course, is because it just came to him. It was a solution created by his subconscious because he'd been repeatedly asking the question, how do I do this? Right, now one of the things that can help you to stick with it and to be persistent is to install some very useful and powerful beliefs about the fact that you can do it. Remember what I told you about working from the possibility through the expectations and then into the I cans, I ams, and I do's. If you have pstek positive, then remember to put them to use here. Having the right beliefs helps to keep you focused on achievement. I'll add some information here about pstek positive for you. The whole purpose of pstek positive is to allow you to deliver powerful and beneficial suggestions of change to your subconscious in a very powerful way. It pushes them deep into the subconscious, it layers them up, and then it inflates them. As many of you will have discovered, it really does work incredibly well, especially if you stick to the guidance about how to structure your suggestions for change. Now, when deciding what suggestions to use to create your desired change, keep them short and keep them positive. In other words, rather than focusing on the way things have been, focus on the new reality. For example, I will no longer feel stressed is a terrible suggestion. It's also a terrible belief because it focuses on the idea of being stressed. Far better is, I will feel relaxed and calm. But even that suggestion, that belief needs work because it isn't specific enough. A good suggestion will be more specific. I will feel relaxed and calm is much better than I will no longer feel stressed. But what about a time frame? When are you going to feel relaxed and calm? I feel relaxed and calm at work is a much better suggestion. It specifies the change in a positive way, and it says exactly where and when this will happen. Plus, it's nice and short. Perfect. pstek positive can give you truly amazing results, but to do so, you want to be accurate with your phrasing and to phrase your suggestions of change in this way. Positive, specific, and reasonably short, and also, ideally, including some kind of time frame. If you haven't got it, or you don't have level 1 for any reason, then at least use these principles when changing your beliefs. Be specific and set a time frame. Remember, that's important as far as goals go too. Apart from setting goals, how do we achieve success? Well, fortunately for us in the 21st century, the basic psychology of success and achievement is pretty much nailed. But what has been lacking is the tools to make it as easy as possible. And that's why I keep referring you either to the free click tracks to eliminate those unwanted emotions or to pstek positive for beliefs. Since behaviors can stem from either emotions or beliefs, it's always best to work with both. You could read 100 books on the subject of achievement, but the reality is when you distill them down, certain principles are always there. So for pstek repatterning, I've removed all of the clutter to give you a simple process that contains only a few steps. These are easy to remember and easy to repeat, but these simple steps powerfully program the mind and particularly the subconscious for goal achievement. I'll show you how pstek relates to these steps later, but first we'll lay out the basic process. 1. Decide what you want to achieve and decide what you're prepared to invest to reach your goal. 2. Make that vision of success as clear in your mind as possible. Now, not everyone can visualize well, but everyone, including you, can imagine. So you have a choice here. Many people use visualization techniques. Other people, who may be not so visual, build scrapbooks into which they put pictures of what success means. Step 3 is about regular focus. Reinforce your vision of success by immersing yourself in it every single day. Step 4, anticipate the various hurdles that could get in the way, and then also imagine ways of getting around those hurdles if they happen to arise. And 5, the last thing to do is simply to stay focused until the goal is achieved. Now, this simple strategy is what allowed the likes of Henry Ford and Thomas Edison to achieve things that others were only able to dream about, and this method of achieving has been used successfully time and time again by so many people who have written about it over the last 100 years or so that it's the surest route to success known. Imagination is used in this process and also in goal setting because it's the language that is understood by the mind below consciousness. Some call it the unconscious. I think it's much more accurate to call it the subconscious. Does it really exist? The simplest proof that I can offer you is that the dreams you have at night are not a product of the conscious mind. People have them all the same. In fact, on average, a third of our lives are spent sleeping, during which time our conscious minds take no part. There's a huge sea of thought and belief which exists below consciousness, and it's that needs to change for all kinds of success to be achieved. We have to create subconscious change because most of what we do is done subconsciously. The subconscious is responsible for our emotions, our fears, our worries, and our can't be bothered to do that feelings and behaviours. Clearly imagining a goal sends an instruction to your subconscious telling it what needs to be achieved, but without that kind of direction, it'll do pretty much whatever it likes. The more clearly and the more regularly something is imagined, then the more well-defined the requirement becomes, and this clear instruction encourages the subconscious to do the work necessary to make that goal, whatever it is, a reality. And this is why, with a goal clearly defined, the likelihood of success is far, far greater. Why does imagining success lead to success? Well, that's because of the patterns that get repeated below consciousness. Once you create a pattern for the subconscious to follow, it will keep repeating it. Remember that you can't expect the subconscious to do and repeat something of which it's got no experience. Before achieving the success in the real world, you create the requisite patterns by means of mental rehearsal. Your subconscious gets used to the experience, and it does its best to behave in ways which fit that pattern. Simple. Oh, and by the way, when I say to imagine, remember that it doesn't necessarily mean visualizing. Some people have a problem with that, but everyone can imagine in some way or other. So there's absolutely no excuse for not doing it. This simple strategy has been taught and retaught in various guises since the late 19th century, but it existed long before that. It's usually wrapped up so it sounds new, but the basics are always pretty much the same. Why? Because it works. It's been tested over and over again. But rather than just giving you the strategy, I want you to understand exactly why it works. If you understand why, you're far more likely to follow the techniques. When Wallace D. Wattles wrote his classic book, The Science of Getting Rich, 100 years ago, he did so having quickly amassed a fortune from almost nothing. Now, Napoleon Hill revisited these ideas in 1937 in his classic book, Think and Grow Rich, in which he proposes 13 principles in the form of a philosophy of personal achievement. More recently, the likes of Tony Robbins, Paul McKenna, Brian Tracy, and lots of other people have each achieved success by using similar strategies, and while some of the detail may be different, they've each stressed the importance of clearly defined and imagined goals in their teaching. Now, this doesn't have to be success in business or success with making money. The principles of success can be applied to any kind of success or goal achievement. If you want to save an indigenous species from extinction, then you could use this method to create within you an unstoppable dynamo capable of creating huge change in the real world. Okay, let's recap. The basic psychology of success and goal achievement is well understood. Here's a brief synopsis of the basic method. First, decide what you want to achieve. Second, make that vision as clear as possible. Remember, you can use visualization techniques or build scrapbooks into which you put pictures of what success means to you. 3, reinforce that by immersing yourself in your imagined success every day. 4th, truly successful people also very often imagine every step that they'll need to take to achieve their desired outcome. So next, anticipate the possible hurdles that could get in the way, and also imagine ways of getting around those hurdles and circumventing them if they arise. And fifth, the last thing to do is just to stay focused until that goal is achieved. Now, it's a great method, and if someone can do this and has the ability to stay focused, ignoring everything that previous experiences taught them, then boy, does it work. But this century-old strategy completely fails to address something extremely important, and this is where pstek repatterning is different. This method that's been taught by so many people does not explain how to eliminate the fears, or exactly how to cope with any previous failures, or how to eliminate the damage caused by past traumas, and some people have had really traumatic experiences. If someone has been fortunate enough to have a past which essentially programmed them for success, then they can use that method to increase it. But what holds most people back is their former experience. It needs to be dealt with effectively, otherwise the method is not likely to work. Success and lifestyle gurus have primarily focused their attention on the future. But the reality for most people is that it's extremely difficult to build a clear vision of a positive future if the things that have happened in the past continually affect one's thinking. And this is why I decided to create this program. A huge problem lurking in the past which has never been properly dealt with could only ever serve to hold you back and hurt you. A bad past experience or experiences can totally prevent any kind of future success, no matter what somebody does, because that person feels as though they are chained to the failures of the past.